Hi, so today I'm going to show you how I embroider my lazy daisies. These are really easy and simple to get the hang of. They also make really cute flowers and it's a great stitch to learn for making petals too. Don't forget, if you're enjoying these videos, please hit that thumbs up and give this a like and subscribe. So, to do my lazy daisies, I've got my needle threaded with some cotton. I'm just working with 3 strands and there's a knot at the end. So we come up from underneath until the knot hits the other side of the fabric and it can't go any further. Then we create a loop, use our spare hand to hold this in place. You want the loop going in the direction that you're going to want your petal or flower to go in. Then you either go back exactly through the same hole or right next to it. When you're pulling it through, make sure you're still pinching this loop, and then when it gets to about the size that you want your petal to be, then we bring our needle back up through the top, pull it through, and then just do a tiny little stitch over the top. And then that just secures your stitch in place. When you're doing your lazy daisy stitches, you need to be careful about how tight you're pulling your stitches, because that's going to determine whether you have a wider or narrow petal. So I've come up underneath again, using my spare hand to pinch the thread and hold it in place, go back through, pull the thread down to about the size that I want it, back up at the top through the middle of the loop that we've created, pull that through, and this is what I mean. If you pull, so I've just pulled that tight, so that is laying flat against the fabric. If I was happy with that size, I would just go over the top. But if I wanted a narrower one, the tighter you pull it, the closer your threads are going to come together, and then you can go over the top and secure that off. If you find that you've pulled it too tight, you can just loosen it again. Use your needle to loosen your threads, and then pull it as tight as you want it, and then just go over the top. It's a really tiny stitch that we do over the top. Pull that down and it just secures it in place. Another way that you can do a lazy daisy is come up from the bottom, create your loop and pinch that with your spare hand, back through, but as you've gone back down the bottom, you bring it up the top of your petal to be. So you bring your needle back through, push it through, and then this creates your loop. And then we just go over the top, secure that off. And it is that simple to do our lazy daisy stitches. So like we did last week when we was doing our French knots, let's do a little bunch of flowers and get some practice in with these. So to get some practice in on our lazy daisy stitch, I've just created this pattern which will cover last week's French knots, and over the next couple of weeks we're going to do satin stitch and stem stitch. So you can use this just to get a little bit of extra practice in on the stitches. I'm going to use the carbon paper method to transfer these onto my canvas. So to trace these onto our canvas using the carbon paper method, I've got my canvas already loaded onto my hoop. So we put our carbon paper, you've got your wrong side and the side that traces, put that over your hoop. You might find it easier to cut out the individual patterns. Once you've got your pattern cut out, just make sure it sort of fits, and then you grab your carbon paper, put the copy side down and place your template on top. Once you're happy with the placement, we just grab a pen and go over it. Now I've got my practice design all on my canvas. I've got my green thread on my needle and I'm just going to do a long stitch for each of the stems. Once I've got all of my stems in place, I've just got my orange cotton on my needle now, and I'm just gonna do my lazy daisies. So I'm using my spare hand to hold the cotton in place to create the loop. I've come through the top and now I'm gonna put my needle back almost through the same hole, bring that down, and then as the loop starts to get to the right size we want it, I'm going to bring my needle just below where we want the top of the petal to go, pull it through, and then just do a tiny little stitch over the top and secure the lazy daisy into place. And I'm just going to repeat this, going round each of the petals on this flower, using my spare hand to pinch the cotton to hold it in the direction that we want it to go, and then just put a tiny little loop stitch over the top. So I'm going to do my lazy daisies all round the rest of this flower and then round each of these stems too. Now I've finished going round and doing all of my lazy daisies. I've got some yellow cotton on my needle and I'm just going to get some more practice in on the French knots that I did a video on last week. I'm just going to use these to just fill the centre of this flower at the top. And French knots just fill that nicely. So now French knots have just filled the middle of that flower nicely and finished that off. So I've got my yellow cotton again on my needle. I haven't got a knot on the end of this one this time. And so now our two dots that are either side of the stems on the pattern, I'm going to use my yellow cotton again and go down through the top and then bring the needle back up through the other dot on the other side, bring that through, and then once that's through, even up my strands, just like we did last week around the lavender. I'm just gonna tie that into a little knot and just create a little bow. Once you're happy with your bow, just snip off the ends. That's our little bunch of flowers made using our lazy daisies. This bit at the top where I've written what they are, it's up to you. You could stitch that on if you want. I'm just going to use my fabric marker and just go over it. I've just put some little dots at the end because that's what I did last week on my lavender. That's it, all finished. That's our cute little lazy daisies, and as you can see they're super simple and we've got plenty of practice in, and get this really cute little embroidered bunch of flowers which complements our French knots from last week too. Next week we're going to do satin stitch. If you missed my tutorial on how to do the French knots, I will link that. Hope you're enjoying these. If you are, please hit that thumbs up and give this a like and subscribe, and I will see you next week for satin stitch. Thank you.